Dear students, good morning. Welcome to Law Excellence IAS. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 15th September 2020. The first article for discussion is India's Great Silence is the Loudest Sound. Today, the government is silent on pandemic related information and standoff with China and also on economic crisis the country is facing. Remember, in a democracy as citizen is the master, information need to be shared with the citizens. This information becomes the basis for knowledge, basis for debate and basis for dissent. And you all know that dissent is the safety valve of democracy. The second thing is every crisis strengthens the executive arm of the government. In this case, legislature and judiciary they remain silent, giving a free hand to the executive to handle the situation. Many a times, executive has misused this situation to pass certain draconian laws that can hinder the liberties and freedoms of the citizen. So, in this case, the legislature also has to safeguard the dissent. That is what author is expressing. The second most important thing is executive has a primary responsibility to inform the citizen. That is what is the logic of democracy. So this is what author says here. The next is urban employment as the focal point. Remember, urban employment in India is highly informal, and whatever the safety nets which are being given to agricultural laborers from rural India are not available in urban India. So, urban informal sector has many vulnerabilities related to job safety and job security. There are inadequate earnings, low productivity, difficult conditions of work. So the way forward for India is to raise the number of jobs, not just raising the jobs. We have to improve the quality of jobs which are there to the citizens. Now, in India, urbanization and economic growth, they are not transforming the employment structure. Simply, jobs are shifting from one sector to the other sector, but they are not becoming formal. So, the formal employment in the total employment in India is not increasing. Whenever economy gets modernized, we expect the nature of jobs to change. They become highly qualitative with safety nets. This is not happening in India. So, what is the way forward? First, India has to invest in urban infrastructure related to basic amenities that are meant for all the citizens. Second is urban employment generation programs shall be created in association with the local governments to the local needs. And public private sector have to be encouraged to invest in employment generation programs or employment generated related industries. And finally, Urban Employment Guarantee Act, everyone is stating as a panacea. And comparing that with Rural Employment Guarantee Act, see carefully, these are meant to provide a kind of low quality work to the poor people. What is required in India is to change the structure of employment itself, that is from low quality employment to high quality employment. That's why author is saying Employment Guarantee Act is not a solution for the existing crisis. Improving the quality of job, safety at work, formalizing the job, creating safety nets, this is what has to be the way forward for urban jobs in India. Next is for a different ad stake. This article is related to ease of doing business index. Few days back also we saw a news article which states that World Bank is holding ease of doing business index for this year. It wants to revise and critically analyze the same. Why? What are the reasons? There are many inconsistencies. Objectivity and transparency is missing from this index. Let us critically analyze this. Ease of doing business index is prepared from certain data from urban cities. Let us take India. Delhi and Mumbai are the basis for understanding the ease of doing business in India. And second, it is not correlating with the real world. Let us see China and India are getting lot of foreign direct investments, but their position is relatively low compared to Russia. And why the Russia's position has improved and Chile's position has gone down, there is no clarity. And it is promoting for deregulation. Deregulation on environment and labor laws. Obviously, it can create labor unrest and also environmental degradation, which can affect the economic growth and safety of the workers in the long run. And finally, lack of transparency is the major reason. So, in this context, World Bank is trying to revise this. An old ideology for new times. Remember this article in the context of political parties in India. Congress is a centrist party. And before independence, Congress majorly had right wing, left wing, and everyone as part of it. It represented various viewpoints in independence movement. And after independence, left right got significantly separated from Congress, and Congress by and large is stated as a centrist party. But the core values of the Congress are drawn from independence movement, and what they have stated, secularism is the binding factor for India. So secularism and socialism were driving with the anti-imperialist mindset for the Congress party. But today, Congress party has diluted its secular credentials. Let us put this way. When Ayodhya issue flared up, the right wing got strengthened in India. Do you know how Ayodhya issue got flared up? Rajiv Gandhi during that government, all of a sudden, Ram Lalla, the statue of Ram, it appeared within the Ayodhya Babri Masjid. And this all has led to allowing of the Hindus to pray into the Babri Masjid, and this has widened up the clashes, finally ended up demolition of the Babri Masjid. And government also moved back and forth on Shah Bano case, and then minority appeasement is the word which has come into existence with this particular behavior. And the situation was rightly used by the BJP to raise its presence. In this case, Congress soft Hindutva will do more damage to it rather than consolidating its position. So this today already separated minorities away from the Congress. And what is the second part of it? Neoliberalism, economic liberalization, it has played havoc with the lives of poor and marginalized, especially Dalits and tribals who are the backbone of Congress party. So in this context, Congress moving back to its ideological roots centered around secularism and socialism can provide new space or new life into the party. And remember, a political party's basis has to be in its ideology rather than in its people. A strong ideological foundation provides for extended life to a political party. That is the point we need to remember here. The next is the cost of peace. You know that the dialogue is going on in Doha between Afghan government, Ashraf Ghani government, and the Taliban leaders. And United States of America has facilitated this. In this case, what is India's position? India did not welcome the Taliban into the mainstream, and it considers them still as terrorists. But this time, India has changed its position. Though it still considers them as the terrorists, India has actively welcomed the talks between these two groups. The second, it was a long drawn talks for two reasons. Taliban were not agreeing for ceasefire, and government was not willing to release prisoners of Taliban. The second point over here is India wants the process to be Afghan led and Afghan owned. And most important thing, whatever the developments, political developments have happened after the fall of Taliban, these have to be protected. What are they? One is democratic structures were established, institutions of governance, and the state structure with the army is kept in place, and rights of minorities and women is being respected. But today Taliban are not interested to talk to the women members in the Ashraf Ghani government's delegation. They have objections to the delegation. So in this case, the peace process shall not compromise on the long drawn benefits of democracy in Afghanistan. This is the essence of article. The next article is Center opposes move to recognize same-sex unions. You know section 377 which criminalizes unnatural sex. So this is being declared as unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, which has liberated LGBT community from their sexual relationships. The second part is the thing has ended over there. Beyond that, the social recognition and legal recognition for same sex marriages did not come yet in India. That is what LGBT community is demanding. So, discriminating them based on their gender identity, sexual orientation, violates their right to equality. And that's why they have moved towards the Delhi High Court, and the matter is pending over there. And here, Center says it is not in accordance with the traditions and social values of India and opposes the same. The next is United Parliament must back soldiers at borders. You know that the standoff is going on with China. In that case, opposition is demanding explanation from the government and speech from none other than Prime Minister on the issues that are existing at the border. Let the nation be informed. This is the stand of opposition. And Prime Minister Modi has showed any inclination towards it. In these circumstances, Prime Minister asked the support of the entire Parliament to back our soldiers at the border. Three agri reform bills introduced. What are these three agri reform bills? Remember these bills. We will have a deep discussion on these bills and how they are going to change the structure of agriculture in India. These are Farmers Produce, Trade and Commerce Promotion and Facilitation Bill, Farmers Empowerment and Protection, Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Bill, and finally Amendment to the Essential Commodities Act. Remember these three. What they are meant to change? Agricultural produce marketing, and second, agricultural minimum support prices and essential commodities related acts in India. What is the opposition view? Everything we will see in a separate discussion. Remember, agriculture is a subject in the state list or not? How come Parliament is making the laws on these subjects? This is all we discuss in depth. And a mains question is expected with regard to this because Economic Survey has critically analyzed the Essential Commodities Act last year. The pandemic has necessitated a reconsideration of the 42% devolution. Remember, 15th Finance Commission was headed by Mr. N.K. Singh. He tries to analyze how the devolution or sharing of divisible pool of taxes between center and states is expected to change and what are the demands of the states specifically. 1. States are expecting a greater devolution for their increased financial needs due to pandemic. They are expecting close to 50% from the divisible pool of taxes. And they're also expecting the relaxation of FRBM norms and center shall allow them to borrow more. Borrowing limits have to be removed for them. And finally, and health has to be given a priority in the devolution or a separate devolution has to be given for healthcare infrastructure. These are the three things discussed. In this scenario, what is the opinion of Mr. N.K. Singh? Fiscal consolidation and stability is a long-term value for macroeconomic stability. So that's why fiscal stability anchored along with public debt are essentially monitored in Indian economy. Trust fund to provide legal aid in fight for free speech. You know, sedition charges are increasing. So governments are impatient towards dissent and criticism. So any sedition, the major criticism about the sedition law is it is violative of freedom of speech or it is acting as a death blow to the freedom of speech. In this case, to protect the freedom of speech and to fight the justice for the people who are charged with sedition, a truth fund was constituted by NGOs. That is the article. What's next for Palestine after UAE Bahrain deals with Israel? You know that Israel had diplomatic relations with two countries before, two Arab nations before. What are they? Egypt and Jordan. And now UAE made a diplomatic relationship which was followed by Bahrain. The difference between the earlier and the present day is UAE and Bahrain did not ask anything from Israel in return. In this context, how it is going to impact Palestine, that's what we need to understand. So this kind of relationship first has weakened the two-nation argument. Second, land for peace. On this, the Arab solidarity built in support of Palestine. This Arab solidarity is expected to be weakened on Palestinian cause. Though Arab population have sympathies for Palestinian cause, but Arab countries are non-representative. And more Arab countries are expected to join the process, especially from Africa. Morocco, these kind of countries are expected to join. And in 2002, Arab Peace Initiative was proposed by Saudi Arabia, but today it is expected to see a slow death. But for example, let us see what is this Arab Peace Initiative. It calls for full withdrawal of Israel from territories it captured in 1967 war, including West Bank, Gaza, and Golan Heights from Syria. And then a just settlement for the Palestinian refugees who are living in refugee camp today. And finally, establishment of an independent state of Palestine with East Jerusalem as capital. So this is almost kind of dead. And after the elections in USA, Mr. Netanyahu is expected to expand annexation of West Bank, and we have to wait and see. Finally, Yoshihide Suga set to become Japan Prime Minister. Ruling Liberal Democratic Party elected Mr. Suga as the leader and he is expected to become the Prime Minister. He said that he will take the path of consolidation initiated by Mr. Abe on economic and diplomatic front. In this case, economically, Japan is in recession and it is facing a worst crisis on a health and economic front due to COVID-19. And also, the diplomatic relations with China and USA it has to balance. And Mr. Suga is an experienced politician and presently he is the Chief Cabinet Secretary for Japan. These are the news articles for today. Thank you very much. Have a great day.